Hey y'all, I'm Emily and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So last week we talked about the pros and cons of having a first look on your wedding day. And this week we're going to talk about the pros and cons of having a traditional look on your wedding day. So let's get started. So once again, we're going to start with the pros of having a traditional look on your wedding day. So number one is you don't have a front load heavy timeline. So last week we talked about a little bit what front loading the timeline was. And that's where the majority of your pictures are before the ceremony instead of after. So we talked about those time crunches last week. So when you have a traditional wedding day, the ceremony is basically the focal point of the day, and you kind of put everything in the timeline around that instead of front loading the wedding day. So it makes the day run a little bit more smoothly as far as how everything is spaced out. Then the second one is by not having a front load heavy timeline for your day, it allows you to put your ceremony wherever you would like it. It gives you a lot more flexibility with that ceremony time. So if you plan on having a morning wedding or even an early afternoon wedding, most of the time a traditional look is better for your timeline. You're able to do those earlier ceremony times. So number three is, of course, the big moments where you actually get to see each other. Some brides have been dreaming about that since they were little girls, and they are not willing to give up that moment for a first look, and that is totally fine. That is definitely why it's a pro, because there is something about that moment. When the crowd stands, the music is playing, it definitely puts people in an emotional state, and a lot of tears are shed a lot of times. And some people think that if you have a first look, that it diminishes that effect a little bit, and that's totally fine if that's the way that you choose to do it. That's why people, that's why this is a pro. Some people feel like that moment is the most important part of the whole entire wedding, and they will for sure schedule their whole day around that moment, and that is totally fine. So let's talk about the cons of having a traditional look. So number one is, like we talked about in the last video, it can put a time crunch on your wedding day. Not always. I have seen timelines. I just built a timeline the other day for a bride who's doing a traditional look, and she has one of the best timelines I've ever seen. It doesn't always put a time crunch, but if your wedding does run behind, it could mess up the entire timeline for the day, and it's definitely a lot easier to get behind with a traditional look. Another thing is it also puts an extra hour after your ceremony. It normally takes anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour to get all of those pictures that we weren't able to take before the ceremony after. And so sometimes people don't like that they have to make their guests wait. Other people don't care. If you're doing a traditional look, there's always cocktail hour, there's appetizers, there's so many things that you can do to keep your guests occupied while they wait for you to finish pictures. Number two is that you'll be spending more time apart. Because you'll only see each other from the ceremony until the end of the reception, you're missing the whole beginning half of your day together. And so that can be a con about having a traditional look at your wedding. So number three is the pressure of that moment. Some people feel like the whole moment can be ruined just by how much pressure there is on that moment. What if my groom doesn't cry? What if I trip going down the aisle? There's a lot of different things to be stressed about in that moment, and some people just don't want to deal with that, and that is a con to them. So now that we've looked at the pros and cons of both a traditional look and a first look on your wedding day, the big question is, what do I as a professional recommend? As a professional, I recommend having a first look on your wedding day, but as a past bride, I know that I did a traditional look on my wedding day. So my answer is not easy, but it's to talk with your wedding planner, your photographer, and your groom. Between those three people, you will figure out what's best for your day. I can't give you a straight answer because not everybody's day is the same, and not everybody reacts to different situations the same. Like I said, if I'm just giving my professional opinion with knowing nothing of your wedding day, then I would say a first look. But this is why it's important to have consultations with your wedding photographer and wedding planners so they can help you build the perfect timeline for your day. So I would love to know your opinions on traditional versus first look down in the comments. Last week I asked you to tell me what you did for your wedding. This week I want to know what your opinion is, because sometimes those are different, like they are with me. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and share. And then if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely do so because I post videos every Tuesday. So I'll see y'all next week.